God and Ray here again, but back with a brand new and fresh concept. Gone through deep evaluation of our platform, the podcast, and our mission, and we've come to the conclusion that it was time to move forward as we've grown into a new phase of this podcast, along with our own personal lives. You could say we've transcended into the intrinsic minds. So we have many things to share with you, all regarding our experiences on our hiatus, what we've learned in the process, an exclusive inside look at the rebranding, new platform updates, our mission as a whole, and what to expect from us at the Intrinsic Minds when it comes to services, content, exclusive community, and networking. So, Ray, what's going on? Welcome
It,
back.
it feels extremely refreshing to be back. I'm very excited to be back. And with something that I feel very much more attached to or more genuine opposed to we loved having the name the Daily Transcendence. It was something that was fitting for the time for us coming into our own and going on a embarking on a new spiritual journey, which we came together and started to
Mhm.
really kind of meld and say, hey, who are we? uh like, how are we truly defined individually and then as a podcast and as a team? And Intrinsic Minds, we've decided to go with this because I've always looked at information as it's like food, right? You have junk food and then you have nutritional food. You have something that really nourishes the body, right? And with intrinsic, starting with that is, intrinsic is something inherently valuable, something that's going to truly do something for you, right? And so with the intrinsic minds concept, we're looking to not only with ourselves but with the listeners kind of formulate new ways of thinking. It's not about what you think, it's about how you think, right? That's you're going to probably hear that repeated over and over again because that's basically our motto. It's our MO now. It's that it's not about what you believe, it's not about what you think about, but it's how you think about it. And I think that's what a lot of the world and a lot of even like say that just the truth community itself is everyone's just worried about what to think. And yet how to think is so much more important, right? It's not what car you drive, but it's how you drive the car. That dictates
Yeah.
if you live or not when you get to the destination of where you're going to, right? Now, and then, but once you know how to drive the car, then you could choose what car you want to drive into because you learned how to drive it, right? So that's the concept we're riding here. It's going to be a different approach where this isn't some spiritual woo woo airy fairy stuff. It's about the information, it's about the truth, it's about the quality of information that's going to be funneling through this podcast, what guests we have on, what topics we end up talking about. And it could range from fringe conspiracy all the way down to deep spiritual topics, syncretism, all that stuff that we were basically talking about in the
Mhm.
original podcast that we had. But we look to transcend a lot of these things and bring about more of a um, we want to have more discussions where we don't feel so attached to the spiritual paradigm, where we could bring in metaphysics and science and other aspects and dimensions where it's going to be more useful to a more broader audience.
Mhm.
Because we did feel, and you could, reiterate what I'm about to say here, but we did feel constrained by the name and the logo. And in a way, we felt like it was, this is why I said you can reiterate, but it was fraudulent to what it is our true goals were as a podcast and as a team.
And that's the point of growth, and we have to sometimes get comfortable making what may seem like an uncomfortable decision, and kind of that was a little bit part of it too. I mean, I knew we knew that probably down this point in the road that we would kind of have to do this. um you know Especially maybe not so much with the back and forth and things, but just like you were saying before about, like, you're really grabbing that value, and it's not just about what you think. It's the same thing. It's like, so you're feeding, it's not just about what you're feeding your mind to, it's about how you're mentally digesting it too. How are you is this going through a type of digestive process in your mind as where it is just completely spiritual? Is it metaphysical? Like, is it getting to more so of a rationality, whatever it may be, through the astrology, however it may be. So that's our point, is trying to bridge the gap between those things and showing each one of these areas where some may find it um maybe not the same thing, really bringing in that parallel to be able to understand it in this more broader way, that actually simplifies it a lot better, and really just bridges the gap between the mind, the emotional parts, the spiritual, the metaphysical, knowing how to use different theories, different historical events, current events. This is ultimately the secretism of all this as well. Of course, we're going to extract the values from all the old teachings and all the different ways of thinkings, different sources on top of that, and basically learning how to navigate life, navigate our own internal ways as well, and to just better help ourselves grow and understand ways that we, constantly, you're never going to figure out in a day. I think it takes a lifetime to figure it out, but to help you exercise and really build up your mind in that way, to connect it with all parts of yourself, to know, okay, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing. And yes, I'm gonna question certain things, but I'm not questioning why am I going into these things. Like, yes, it is important to question some of those things of why are you even getting to it, but with the healthy dose of knowing, okay, well, I'm trying to better myself, not just in the normal expression of bettering yourself, but understanding that it has an ultimate effect in overall reality, in your reality. And sometimes you might work from the inside out, sometimes from the outside in. That's the whole thing. You only get like very one-sidedness sometimes from these different, spiritual or truth communities and stuff like that, or and it's just kind of heavily based and focused on one area or one thing, or one victim and one bad guy and all that stuff. And that's kind of the thing that we want to engage with, and kind of initiate talking about, kind of maybe breaking down those walls of doing that.
Yeah, well said. I agree, and I think for me personally, through all of this, has been more of giving yourself the validity to ask questions and to explore and to kind of break the barriers of your own thought process and to know what's intrinsically valuable to you, in the thought realm of things and the paradigms that you hold in your mind and what you've learned from your education, from your religion, from your government, from your friends, from your family. I think it's important to redefine yourself, or at least, go through a stage of re self development and make sure and just do a check at the door and say, hey, where have these thoughts come from? What do they mean to me? If they mean absolutely nothing to me in my initial life and my initial growth, spiritually, mentally, then it's time to, reevaluate these things and to find out what, and we'll beat this into your mind, but what's intrinsic to you, and I got the definition that truly kind of attracted me to the word being an adjective for our podcast is pertaining to the essence or nature of a thing. um, what's the essence of yourself, of your spiritual self, of your mental self, of your personality. And this is where, later down the road, astrology will come into play, because that is a science of self discovery and self awareness and bringing things out from the unconscious into the conscious. And these things become intrinsically valuable to us, by knowing thyself. And so there's just so many things where we want to range from. And that's what kind of has caught my eye now on my path, is knowing that there is so many paths to be taken and that there is no wrong or right, but there is just your path that you need to be on at that moment. And I think it's almost like wanting to stop to the ongoing information war that goes on between clans of spirituality and clans of metaphysics, or science, and that's never going to stop because humans are humans. From a show I just watched, it was a quote like, "War will always continue unless there's one human or less." In some form, right? And but I do think war, if you translate that to competition or conflict or being abrasive, allows things to change. That would be the square in an astrological chart, right? Forcing things to change through conflict. We're going to need that, but there's all there is that with not many outcome. Like, are we fighting for the right reasons then, right? And knowing thyself is going to allow you to fight the war you need to be fighting if you're here to fight one, whether it's against an opposing force or against yourself. And you need to know
Mhm.
what is that war. Is it against really the outside, or is it against the inside? And I think a lot of people don't like to look on the inside. They'll look outside first and point the fingers. But
Yep.
that's what a lot of the esoteric and metaphysical knowledge ends up kind of turning around on you. It teaches you that, well, no, the first thing you have to do is know what's intrinsically valuable to you. And then you
Mhm.
could start working on yourself. And then you could start looking to the outside and saying, hey, well, what's the problem here? Or where do I belong? Or what any of your views that are on whether it's economical or it's societal or whatever it is. But it's about doing the inner work first. And the inner work comes from knowing thyself, and knowing thyself will lead you to the knowledge and to the things and the people that it is that you need to really be focused on. And that's our goal for ourselves and for the listener and for any guests that come on here.
Yeah, because I do. When you said like the whole warring thing too, like I do think of the whole, even the etymology of worship, and it's a worship, and that could be happening within you, and that's what we see also happens in these communities. That it's they may talk against, the worshiping of all these other different, whether they're religions or other spiritual types or theological sections and stuff like that in society. But
Cosmologies,
yeah, but they also bring on and start having their own dogmatism as well. And that's the thing, is just falling on these set of beliefs again, which we spoke a lot about, the whole thing of, that beliefs can get you in trouble and keep you from actually knowing. But rather than to believe in your own self and your own ability and stuff, and kind of let that lead you into knowing, oh, okay, well, is this information I'm going to aid me in some sort of way, because it's going to open my mind and it's going to open awareness for myself, and open the awareness to reality, as it may be, at least for myself, and can it branch out from there. But that's the thing, like, yeah, I think we also, you know I, life is so different now, especially when it comes to learning, and when it comes to sitting down and paying attention and trying to take in information. Everybody wants quick information, headlines, instant gratification type things, quick videos and everything. And it's like, that's the other thing that I feel, at least on my end of, and I know that you feel like this, Ray, too, is that, do we want to bring back the old concepts of knowledge, of gnosis, and it is being able to bring back in those original sciences, astrology being one of them, and even philosophy was a part of it, being able to analyze the different philosophical perspectives as well on life, on reality, bringing it back to nature as well on top of it too, and to be able to link those between what we do actually know, and kind of helping us draw ourselves into more of a calculated way of thinking and perceiving and understanding some of the things that occur. And you know a lot of those things that do occur, that we try to like look at, whether it be conspiracy stuff, what the government's doing, the elites and stuff, or the evil doing and stuff, there's constantly this, which we say it all the time, and I think we're going to go into a little bit better though eventually, is the whole, okay, well, how does this originate? What do I do? Do I try to fight it? How do I try to deal with it? Well, there's a different concept now. And it's just understanding more in this energetic form, understanding the, honestly, the necessity of it in our reality, of having that kind of, polarity, I guess you could say, of what we may think is good, and then there's the bad side. But who knows? Your good may also be somebody else's bad. So that's what we have to. That's just simple thinking right there. But really being able to make it more logical by going into some of the old teachings, some of the old concepts, and then honestly, just the understanding of frequencies, our own, the field itself, and everything. I think that's important. And so I think another big thing I think we're going to end up going into is really trying to understand the workings of this evil and the whole beating it at its own game, realizing more so of hermetic presence, rather than constantly trying to point fingers. Not necessarily it being that it's happening to us, that it's just an effect, and we are that it's something that we're presented with, and it creates outcomes on top of it as well. And this just transference of different energy, and how we can learn to exist in these different layers, or to move through the different layers of consciousness, no matter how they may be played out, rather than kind of trying to avoid it or something like that.
I love this because I've always thought, and it's still like this unanswered thing about life itself and our journeys and all that, which is, is it fate or is it free will? Is there a middle ground? Do we get to choose? Do we not? And none of us really know, right? And so because of that, we should stop assuming that we do. And Uncle Ken Wheeler, he had a really great quote, and I'm just gonna paraphrase here, but I forget what he said about free will, but he was more so saying that people don't, when you know something, you stop looking. And so, if we assume whether we have free will or not, or that we're influenced by the story of the Matrix itself, or is if something's happening to us, or if it's happening for us, I think in the end, it becomes just more of a philosophical approach of what works for you and what's going to benefit you in the moment, because it's something that we really can't truly answer, right? And because we can't
Yeah.
answer it, I think out of fear, people want to assume that they have that answer. And instead of exploring new things and exploring new ways of thinking, and to really do this discovery journey of what works for me and what's, and when I say for me, it's like for me, right? Like not what a religion says is good for me, or not what a parent says is good for me, or not what a friend says. What I need to go on this my own journey and really figure out what resonates. And even within the truth and spiritual community, I've noticed that with certain people, you could tell that they're still part of kind of some sort of egregore, like they're still living based off of someone else's principles. Um, and I mean, I'm not judging or saying that I know that everybody's doing that, but it is when you see a repetitive personality type of thing, or when you see like certain with the
Hmm.
way people talk or the way people act, and they're all acting the same, you could tell it's like, oh well, they must have went to this teacher, or they're learning this style, which is fine and it's okay if that's their real path, and it's their real, there's no judgment here. My whole thing is there's a reason why the world is the way it is right now, and I think to me what that comes with is the lack of self-discovery through a real genuine path of like, I chose this, I'm going into it without the fear of my group or my tribe saying that no, don't go there, that's the wrong
Hmm.
thing. And I noticed so many, over the vast amount of truth, little tribes of different types of truth communities and all that within the truth community, you see a lot of like, oh well, it's like almost like burning the witch at the stake. Like, oh, he said that gravity exists, so that doesn't mean he's a flat earther, like, or something
Hmm.
like that, right? Like, it's like as soon as you say this one thing, it's like you're xed in, like the witch burnt at the stake back in the day, right? Like there still is
Yeah.
that dogmatism that exists in all these little tribes, and to me, it's because everyone's attached and acts like they are their belief still, even when they think they've
Hmm.
found like this like nugget of truth, or like this new thing with whether it's what the earth is, or what religion is correct, or what the realm is, or what we're doing here, what the spiritual journey is. When you know, or you think you know what you're talking about, or that you've arrived at a destination, in my opinion, you have failed, because you
Hmm.
should never be at a destination. Not if you've arrived at the right destination. To me, you don't belong here anymore,
Hmm.
or you don't belong in an age like this. You don't belong in this environment because you're here to do, for me, there's the meaning to life is you discover the meaning. And so, and these are my own personal beliefs, but to me, that it works for me. And now, if you disagree with it, it should be okay. Fine. You disagree with what I'm saying, but this is where my path has led me, and no one can tell me
Mm.
different because I've chosen this path. I consider myself not part of any community, but to be my own individual self and to be connected to these communities in ways where I say, hey, here's my similarities, here's my differences. And if we can learn to do that, where we individuate, but we can still be a part of the community, it's the mass community itself, and we can learn to think like that, that how to think
Mm.
instead of what to think. To me, I think that's the overall goal here, and at least for myself, it's what I'm teaching myself, and then now putting it through the radio waves or the airwaves, and hopefully people out there will at least understand. And as we grow and learn to see things through this new lens that we're trying to kind of work through, because it's not easy, that people can grow with us, and we could all go on this discovery journey together and see where we end up, and without judgment or without some sort of dogmatic approach of pointing the finger saying that that person's wrong or that person's right, or and that's the point. And now you can understand why it would be about how you think opposed to what you think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Exactly. I mean, that's why, you know, there's this arrogance that kind of comes up a lot of the times, and sometimes it's not even on purpose. Just with a lot of these people, like it's just kind of they've developed a confidence in, say, their teachers, or kind of what they're interested in, and it's great that they are drawn to the interest, but
Right.
a lot of times that arrogance and that laziness straight up just gets them to stop. Instead of, like, if there is some sort of disagreement, that's why it should be, oh, okay, what path did you take? I don't agree with you, but what path did you take? And kind of give me a quick breakdown of that path you took and where you came to that understanding, that conclusion, and then maybe I could do the same for you, and kind of see what we get, pull out from it. Maybe we will come to some sort of um a kind of a recognition of each other's learnings that just happened, and our process, and how we kind of done that. And through that, a lot can be gained, a lot can be learned, not not only just on the on the more relation side of people actually communicating and people not attacking each other. Yeah, absolutely. But also there may be further discoveries in the truth, in knowledge, in all these things that, and there may be actual solutions because of going through that process of trying to venture down other people's paths that they have taken, rather than just kind of shooing them off, and, like you were saying, right, fucking burning them at the stake just because they have a difference in opinion of you. I mean, don't, like, there's so much of that shit around just in the world with everything else, and we want to talk about truth and the elites and how they're doing this thing and that doing and people are just propagating that division, as much as they're trying to say, oh, they're getting us to divide, but you're propagating that just in a different playing area as well. So, a lot of this comes with the fact of, you know, us also wanting to go into having that inner, using these methods to have inner healing going on, of inner healing of the conditioning we've gone through, any sort of, you know, trauma, and even deep ancestral trauma on top of it too, shit that's in different realms that we may not necessarily on the surface understand, and also the current worldly struggles that we're all kind of faced with on top of it. This There's necessary patterns in this matrix that we are in, and there's a necessary form to it as well, and you can't avoid it. You can't shout out the other people from across the way and condemn them and make them try to stop and stuff. It is to be actively engaged with, and we do have to kind of sit back a little bit, relax, and let that flow come in, and also, yes, I think it is important to find your tribe. So these people that feel like, that's what our space is going to be for, and this is why, and we'll go into some of the new details of what's going to be new besides just the name change, but is to kind of allow that way of looking at the different perspectives, having a condensed area as well of inclusive thoughts, and a community to be able to bounce these different learnings on, because a lot of times people are more interested in one area than the other person, or these other people are interested in that area. And that one group may need to, like, they may need you to input something from your findings into their findings, and it may be a missing puzzle piece, whether they realize it or you realize it or don't realize it at all. So like, this is kind of how we want to kind of go into it, and that's another big part of it, is going to be the community aspect, being able to actively engage more with one another on top of it too, and kind of have these spaces for these types of conversations as well, and exchanging of what other people are kind of going into or experiencing or have learned in some sort of ways.
Yeah, I a while ago we were gonna go on High Vibe TV with our beloved friend Anne, and we were gonna do a little show on there, and we came up with the through I forget my source, but I learned about the agora in Greece, and the agora, and this has relevance to what you were just saying about what our goal is and our podcast is about, is the agora was a gathering place, especially the marketplace in ancient Greece, where people openly debated or discussed new concepts, new ideas, what their paradigms were, and there was no. It was a public space that was it lacked judgment, and it lacked the um, smiting of someone who had thought a certain way,
Yeah.
but they brought the information to that place to be discussed because it was for the expansion of the minds and the certain paradigms that were put in place to change everything for the better. And that's what we want to do here. It's almost like a place of an agora. Look up the definition and the little and the background on that. It's a very interesting concept that the Greeks had, but that's what it's about, right? It's about being open to explore without having that rigidness, which the age of Aquarius could potentially bring, of locking down the thoughts or locking down the paradigms that we have, or that the government tells you to think, or that your religion tells you to think, or anything like that. So it really is something that we want to change within, I guess, the research community too, like the people who go and research and bring new things. It's okay, like, bring your ideas, let's hear them out,
Mm-hmm.
without trying to antagonize, or even, to ask questions is one thing. Hey, like, oh, well, I don't believe what you're saying, or
Mm-hmm.
I have a different background of what you're saying, so explain to me how you got there, because I'm confused, because I've learned from it, like something like that, along the lines of that type of vibe, opposed to saying, you're wrong, you're an idiot, and whatever, like that. It's just, that's not getting us anywhere anymore. um and it's time to be adults, I guess, and be mature
Mm-hmm.
about everything. And almost, by knowing everything, nothing. You should know nothing. Know nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Empty your mind, and be open to brand new ideas, because that's just, it's going to happen naturally anyway. In the information war, in this internet age, there's so many ways you could debunk anything, and that means you don't know if it's a true debunk or not. So might as well go be in an explorative state of mind and say, okay, well, instead of believing something, I'm just going to be explorative in my research and what it is that I want to learn. And comes back to, is this serving me in general, without saying that I'm finding the objective truth about life and that I'm going to figure it all out. What's right for you now? What's right for us now? What can we use now that's going to be resourceful and help us grow and expand into something better, and without almost exiling certain groups of people or certain types of belief systems and all of that. Let them have those. Let them have the way they think and all of that, and just allow
Mm-hmm.
people to be who they are, and allow people to think what they think, and bring information to the table, and let's discuss, and let's be more peaceful about it. And with a little bit of conflict doesn't come that much harm. And until we start separating, like you just said, right, in the more fringy community, we see more of this, like, oh, it's them versus us and all that. And that's true. Like, they're like, it's part of the story. Like, you need the bad guy. The bad guy needs to
Yeah,
exist. And
bring on the fringe. bring on the conspiracies,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like
I mean,
let's
that's fine.
also
Yeah.
let's have a deeper approach. There's more to it than just what a lot of these channels are letting on to be a lot of the times. Like there is something deeper. And not only that, they say it to the blue in the face. And I don't see most of the time, I don't see any real, you know, kind of solution to what can be done, whether it is to fight back or whatever and protect yourself in some sort of way. Like
Wake
let's
other
go into
people up.
yeah, like let's not go so deep into the synchronicities and the gematria, like yes, let's bring those things up, but always grounded back out to be like, okay, well, now given that information, seeing that, what does that tell us? What does that tell us about the reality itself? What does that tell us even about ourselves? Like what, and how is that a reflection? That's the other thing too. How we treat other people is a reflection of kind of our own internal, turmoil or harmony, depending on where you're at and stuff. And that's something to work on too, and that's the thing I feel like, is going to be more of the thing that gets people to even listen to something maybe that they weren't so ready to listen to other times as well. That's I feel like there is a lot of people that do have their eyes open. There are an awakening processes too on top of it, and but they also are very vulnerable in these states, and they're very vulnerable to falling into these dogmatic type tribes and or these one size fits all type people, and you know anything along that line. And it sucks. I feel like it just sucks sometimes because it's like there's so much more. There's so much more that you can tap into that person through their own personal interests as well, and really bringing it into level, by helping them understand the importance of these intrinsic values and where their mind is even at, letting them learn how to explore themselves and using the old sciences and the old teachings of how to explore themselves. Say something like astrology, which helps give you the awareness of where you're at in the cosmos, where you're at in your own personal timing, where the world is at in its timing, what time is it on the sky clock, and the type of effects and the energies that we're kind of dealing with. So like that's another thing. um there was something else I was going to say too before, but I forget, but it'll come to me.
Well, and to me, the mirror principle says a lot, right? Like I firmly think that everything, when we talk synchronicity or the
Mm,
gematria or astrological synchronicity, where it was symbolically or archetypal clues are given within reality, and we've all lived out like oh my God, like any synchronicities that you've experienced that usually gives you that feeling that there's something more magical about this place, which probably later on down the road we'll figure out through science or
mm,
something that it's not that magical, that it's just the way actually this place has always worked. And you keep mentioning like the ancient practices and ancient knowledge and stuff like that.
mm,
It's not ancient. It's
mm-hmm,
not. It's just always been here. Like it's
mm-hmm,
just here and it's always been here, and that's like saying water's ancient. No,
mm-hmm.
water is just here. Like it's
That reminds me, that's what I was going to say, is the fact of you, because you mentioned the information age, that we are in this information age and there's such an influx of information, and that a lot of it gets, because there's so much access to spreading information, that it just, there's so much piling on top of piling on top of piling on, say, the truth or good information, by all these different types of interpretations. And it's like, okay, well, how do we break past that, or how do we kind of, you know what does that mean? Can we not find what the truth is? Can we not find what the real information is, and or the more valuable information is and stuff like that? No, we can, but that also takes a, like you were saying before too, a knowing of thyself, a knowing of even your own workings. And being that you are part of this reality, knowing your workings will help you also understand reality in general, and understand this, you know the type of, fields that we engage with on an everyday level.
And just giving ourselves the freedom to ask questions about reality still without feeling like it's a stupid question. I think we all think about things every day and all the time throughout life, and when we see synchronicity or just anything that's like seems paranormal or metaphysical or something like that, we still don't understand. That was the whole point of me saying before, when you say oh, I got the answers, or oh, I understand everything, well then, that makes you an ignorant fool. You're right. Like you're not going to continue your search on the meaning or path of life that should be taken or what needs to be figured out. And to me, always the workings of things have always been way more important to me than, say, the dogmatic picking a belief just to feel safe and secure so I can get back to my daily job and my family and this and that. I want the bigger questions answered. Why are we here? What's going on? How does it work? And I should have the freedom to be able to ask those questions, because I get, you get the normie response that is, you're never going to figure it out. Go to work. Right, go back to just do what everyone else is doing, right? But if you go back in time and really observe anybody who's ever discovered something or figuring something out, those were the people that were willing to go beyond and say, well, no, like, I'm going to figure it out. Like, I'm going to continue to ask those questions, and we all should have that freedom to feel that way. Like, that we should be able to just ask those questions. If you think that something can't be answered, then you're right. Because the mirroring effect is always at work. To me, and if you want proof for me for the mirroring effect is just look at your life and look at all the synchronicities and when, oh my God, if that person didn't call me at this time, or if I didn't go to this place at that time, this wouldn't have happened. All that is synchronicity. That's like the universe working in your favor. And sometimes if it's something bad, you think it's against you, but it's probably still working in some way in your favor. Maybe a lesson that needed to be learned and all that. To me, this is a healthy way of seeing it all. Let's say you come to me with proof that what I'm saying is absolute nonsense and bullshit. Sometimes thinking the proper way, not thinking in some sort of like, to be disillusioned is one thing, but like it's something that's still not answered. So how do you know it's an illusion? The way I'm saying it, right? So there's no reason to disagree with what I'm saying, because we've all experienced certain things that would say synchronicity is real. Astrology does work. If you look back into the past documented history and what goes on, you can't prove these things wrong. So why say I'm wrong? So the way that I have learned to see, have this lens of life is to see through that there is some sort of magical thing that goes on where things are working in our favor always. And that's just a healthy way to walk around, even if you come at me with some logical facts that what I'm saying is absolutely retarded,
And you could say anything's wrong. Any person could say anything is wrong if they do not know a level degree, a level enough amount about something. If they don't know about it, they could say, of course, it's wrong. But their opinion of it being wrong is invalid because, well, do you know anything about it? Oh, you don't. So how can you say it's wrong? Say, for example, the whole astrology thing. Oh, what, you only know about, sun sign horoscopes or magazine, that type of thing, and whatever stuff. Okay, well, you don't actually know the deeper aspects of it, so you can't say that it's wrong or it's bullshit or any of that stuff. You know what I mean? So that's the other thing too, is also for those in, in the spiritual journey, the truth communities, and all these that are into the metaphysics of things and stuff, and that you know we deal with those type of naysayers in our everyday lives when it comes to our what do you call that, our more local experiences with people and stuff like that. you know that's also a process to learn, and having this self-awareness about of even how to deal with those types of people, whether it's not being too forceful on them and trying to argue with them about things, or also knowing who should be in your immediate environment, who should be in your field. How do you allow them to affect you, and what is that saying about your own mental or emotional well-being and your own state of mind and stuff like that. And those are the things that we have to come into, and those are the things that we have to learn through all these different areas and stuff, that it's all coming back to, it's about us. It's about ourselves, not in this narcissistic type way and stuff, but in the end, when you're asking your questions, it's always important to revert back to be like, okay, well, how does this have to do with me and bettering myself and bettering my existence here in this realm, and and me being an active, participant and the best I can be in this matrix. A lot of people are trying to just escape the matrix and leave and ascend up 5D and stuff like that. But you're part of this. You are part of this. You're here obviously for some sort of purpose. So you have to engage with it. You have to be here in a sort of way. So you might as well learn, might as well try to come to that inner knowing, that inner understanding of what it is you're supposed to be doing. And a lot of this information just great, like the things that even on our, since we've been gone and everything, the things that I've even thought I knew and kind of was pretty well versed in, I felt like, and that I've gone down even further and have made so many connections to a whole totally different topic of subject, that when I in the end I find out, oh my god, no, it's one and the same. And you start seeing how these things actually play together, and it opens up a whole new world of understanding, and it allows you to look at something in your immediate environment or out in nature and outdoors or something like that, and you see that, whether it's an archetypal thing or this energetic type thing working at hand, and you can then confirm, you allow nature to be the truth and confirm what exactly it is, that now this information that you got, and it becomes more practical.
Another to add to that
Mhm.
is a lot of people I've noticed, let's say more on the normie side, your local experiences and people you
Mhm.
talk to that don't really research or study, or even people who do, is a lot of the times people will talk about certain topics and they don't realize things have been answered already, but they haven't done the work. Like
Yep.
things have been answered already. I found lectures from the 60s about magnetic fields,
Mhm.
right? And knowing, just say, just the topic alone, and magnetic fields is science. It's not, we're not just talking woo woo. We're talking about magnetic fields and magnetism and all of that. Just learning that aspect of discoveries that come from the mid 1900s um, will put together some things that we're starting to discuss now that make more sense, more scientifically available, and
Mhm.
more logical, right? Like the fact that there is these morphic or magnetic fields that exist, and it's like, oh well, that's how. It's almost like the concept of, and I think most people forget, is whether it's a radio or a Wi-Fi or anything like that, that information's being transferred without us realizing that it's being transferred,
Mhm.
or we're not thinking about how it's getting from one medium to the next. That information travels through the air. So what is it? Just bouncing off nitrogen and oxygen particles, and it's just, how is it making it from one place to the next?
Mhm.
What is going on, right? And just something as, I won't say as small, but something as individual as studying magnetic fields will start to make things more possible. And then when someone's like, well, how can the stars affect me? Or how could the world be flat? Or how could any of these, like, mainstream right now, you would call them truth community questions. How could they be doing rituals, and how could that be affecting me? Well, then when you start to understand the concepts of magnetism, the
Mhm.
ether, um, dielectricity, morphic
Mhm.
fields, which have been scientifically on the market for a long time,
Yeah.
you look at other people and you go, oh, I mean, like, to me, that's what makes me more secure when someone almost battles me or tries to say I'm wrong about anything that I've researched or studied, because I go, well, no, I've really researched and I really look into things with a discerning mindset, and I am very careful about when I say I believe something. I actually rarely say I believe things, and I'm just on some explorative journey trying to discover how things really do work. And that's what's more important to me. And that's, for me, makes it more concrete in my foundation on going into spirituality and the things like astrology and all
Mhm.
these bigger fringy topics, and how the government could be using black magic on the masses and all of that. And you start to connect these dots, but it's a matter of expanding the mind and not just being so just like everything is spiritual and the 5D and we're ascending, and um whatever, or a manifestation. It's like you think it, you believe it. It's like, well, then how does that work? If manifestation's working, that means that there's a functionality to it. That
Yeah.
means that something's happening. So that means there's an explanation for it. Don't give me the description. I don't want a description. Explain how things are happening. And I think that's our next step, right? And
Mhm.
that's what I want to continue talking about. How are things happening? How are we thinking? You know, I don't want definitions anymore. Or what was the other word that I heard someone kind of like, because I'm paraphrasing a lot here, is like just instead of giving descriptors and giving me what you're observing through your senses, explain how it's happening. And so instead of just talking about, oh, well, we manifest our reality, and the stars create our templates of our life and all of that stuff, a lot of it most likely true from what I've experienced and what just descriptors I could give you and what proof that I could give you in my personal reality. But I can only give you my word through those things. But if we can find explanations or talk about explanations of how everything is working, because if it's happening, that means there's an explanation.
Mhm.
And that's what's more important to me in a sense. But arguing about what opinion I have or what beliefs I hold on specific things, whether we're trapped in a matrix, archonic realm, or whether, we have to ascend to get out of here and we have to go through our Christ birth and all these other philosophies. What makes a philosophy to me a philosophy is that it's this observed idea over time that's been mutually agreed upon with a lot of people, but hasn't been scientifically explained yet.
Yep.
And so that's where we, I think, need to focus more is have these philosophies, have these spiritual concepts and all of these things, hear them out, talk about them, not fight people on them, but then really start asking, okay, well, we need some explanations now
Yeah.
on really how all this stuff could really work. And so back to my point here on the, like, just say the magnetism, just go listen about magnetism. Go listen to Manly P. Hall's lecture on magnetism and understand the concept of these fields that we have, and that these fields make up everything. Ken Wheeler's another one. He's the master of magnetism, theory hypothesis. Um, and you learn that one little concept and it changes your whole paradigm of the world. And then all of a sudden, everything that you're learning about isn't so silly. So do the research. Stop fighting with people.
Mm-hmm.
Stop defending
Yeah.
yourself.
It's the thing. You're gonna have to go look in some other areas, flip over some and look under some other rocks and stuff, and kind of get acquainted with those things. And eventually, just like it has for us, we've had moments where it just draws a straight, like it just draws lines to another area, whether it's something talking about magnetism, and it draw, and maybe we're not looking for that direct connection to astrology, but something pops up, and it makes sense. Why? Because you're becoming more well versed in these different areas and not just looking at them surface level and just being, yeah, I know about magnetism, I stick a magnet to my refrigerator every day. No, it's not what you're doing. Like, you have to go a little bit into understanding it. The same thing, it's like the Bible and all these more religious teachings. It, yeah, sure, has it been manipulated in ways for control and stuff, but that's just not what it's about. And it's also not just, you think somebody just was like, "Ah, fuck it, I'm gonna write a story and make the world believe it," like whatever, and it's just,
And it's just for
that's
control. Yeah.
just for shits and giggles or for control. No, there's obviously more depth to it and stuff. And that's the thing, is grabbing your fucking shovel and learning how to dig and look, and not just dig in one spot, dig in multiple areas. You'll cover more ground and be able to finally see the parallels of what's related and how everything eventually, I mean, overall, you start to see how everything, you know, basically coexist together and is what's driving and functioning this reality. You get answers from looking at information from something you weren't even asking a question about. And that's the point of it. Um but yeah, so I mean, that's definitely our mission, is to be able to, you know, that's the thing. We have a lot of different channels out there and groups and stuff that focus on certain subjects or areas when it comes to, philosophy, truth seeking, metaphysics or astrology or whatever and stuff. A lot of times
economical,
though,
societal,
yes, economical,
history,
yeah,
Tartaria, lost
conspiracy,
history, right?
all those
All of
things,
that. Yeah.
times they are just very specialized areas of groups. And what our duty is, and what we want to do, is to be able to be that one-stop shop for you. Well, not one, I don't want to say one-stop shop, because we don't want you to just stop at us. It's
Yeah, it'd be
to
pretty
be able
egotistical.
to, yeah, exactly. So, but it's to be able to have that condensed understanding, and where that we're not just going to heavily focus on one area. Like, we're going to find the branching out. We're going to allow this tree to sprout, from one thing to another, and be able to hone in on these certain areas, and make the information make sense, to understanding how it all relates, how it all correlates.
Or how something could just be possible.
Yeah.
Just the possibility, just
Mhm.
bringing the realm of possibility into people's minds would be enough for me. I'd say foundationally, like bottom of the barrel. Like, as long as I get
Mm.
you to say, okay, at least I could see that that's possible. Do I agree with it? No, I
Mm.
think you're full of shit, but I think it's possible. If I get you there and you're someone that completely disregards or wants to disregard what we're both talking about, or a guest we have on, what they're saying, just to open the mind enough to where you say, okay, fine. But you know what? My mind is like my home, and I don't allow strangers like this in my home. I don't think you're a bad stranger, but I don't want you in here, so get out. But at least I see that you could be a good person. That this, and in, you know, comparing it to being that this thing could potentially be a true thing, or that this could be a possibility. And if that's the case, then we've expanded the mind enough. And who knows what seed that plants, what tree I can get to sprout, or what Geo can get to sprout in your mind, and where you
Mhm.
could go with certain things. Because so many, and by the way, instead of bashing, because we're not bashing other channels either, or saying that everyone's wrong or that it's wrong to specialize, but it's honestly, I have a lot of thanks to give to all those
Yeah.
channels, and the amount of amazing information I've gotten at certain stops. And then I've just known to have the discernment sometimes to go, okay, they're going down this trail too
Mhm.
far for me. I need to now turn back and go my own route. And as long as you can keep doing that, you'll end up finding your own path. And that's the whole point of
Mhm.
figuring out yourself, your self discovery, finding your own path is the point of going, well, instead of just completely following that channel or that person to that destination that they think they're going, they might be going in the same direction, but I might just veer a little to the left or to the right, or a little north or south or whatever, because I have other things that I need to fulfill in my own spiritual and mental
Mhm.
journey of understanding life and what it is to be alive and means to be human. And this can range. This could range from someone who loves to go deep and think deep about whatever, about reality, which is someone like me and Geo and all of that. We have someone who just wants to live a normal life. But with the people who want to live just a normal life and not go too deep, they still need to understand that, certain things that we have been told need to be thought about again. We can't just ignore certain things,
Mhm.
because if you don't understand where you live or what's going on or what's happening or what the possibilities are, what the potentialities are of life, well, then you're living in the dark. And living
Mhm.
in the dark can be very dangerous. You could fall down a fucking precipice. And,
It's
of
gonna
like
be
a lot of, you could end up in a deep dark cave that you can't get out of, and AKA depression, debt, insanity, go crazy, drug addiction, something like along the lines
Mhm.
of, you can go down a path if you're walking in the dark and fall down an area that you can't get out of, and then that's it, right? But by being aware and at least walking around with a candle lit, even if it's just a candle, meaning I don't want the big light turned on, I don't want to know that much about reality, I don't want to know about astrology, whatever, just the candle is enough. Let me
Mhm.
just light your candle for you so you're aware that this probably was bullshit over here. And if I can show you that was bullshit, that's a bad path, and it might not serve you, but this one might serve you and give you the option at that point. At least you have the option because you could at least see where you're going,
Yeah.
you know?
Knowing the possible roles that you could play, being able to understand basically how to navigate the Plato's cave. That Plato,
Yeah.
that whole allegory too. Where are you at in there? You're not going to know where you're at if you don't know where you're at. you're thinking the shadows on the wall are reality and stuff. But this is where it's coming into that understanding, and we want to bring that information all together and work with those other people, like we said, that are specialists and stuff, that do know more in other areas, and help conjoin these ideas and these perspectives and the information and the thoughts. And that's what's going to broaden this, like the I don't even want to use this word, but I'm trying to think of another way to say it, but this movement of awakening and stuff in some sort of way. I don't like the term. There's so many terms I don't like when it comes to a lot of this, but that's my gist of it. Um, but now let's give some updates on what we've been cooking up when it comes to the rebranding and platforms and stuff like that. Um, so first things first, we will have a website. It is currently under construction. I don't know, maybe by the time this comes out, who knows, it might be finalized. It's like pretty much almost done. Just a few little cosmetic things that need to be done to it. That's going to be theintrinsicminds.com. THEIN. I'm not going to spell the whole thing out. Theintrinsicminds.com. That'll be the website. I thought about it and I was like, I'm not spelling this out.
Yeah. I probably would have, as soon as you started spelling, I'm like, oh God, I would
I
make
was
it.
like, no. So theintrinsicminds.com.
If you can't spell that, we'll have a podcast
Mhm.
episode in the future
Yes.
on how to spell the intrinsic minds and the etymology of it.
Yeah. We'll obviously put the link in the description as well. Of course, if it's not completely live yet, then obviously the it's not going to work, but that will be the website. It's already, the domain is bought and we are ready to go with it. Also, we have the intrinsic minds at gmail.com. That's also the email to reach us at as well. You still also can reach us at the Daily Transcendence Gmail as well.
We wouldn't
trying,
recommend.
we're trying to shift
we're
everything.
Yeah.
So
also the older episodes from the
yes.
first podcast they're gonna have their own section on the website, so you can go listen to them for free. All of them will be just posted on there, and you could just go check them out. And I'm sure we'll keep them up on at least on YouTube. I don't know if
we'll probably
on
keep them on
Acast.
YouTube.
We'll work that out, but they'll be somewhere. They'll definitely be on the website. You can guarantee that, and you'll be able to listen to them. As for, because I was going to add about the new episodes we are going to work out a subscription, and we're still deciding on how we're going to distribute everything. But once we do, you guys will find out, and we're going to have everything kind of set up, and it'll be very self-explanatory on the website. And as we learn more about how, once we get it in our hands, because it's not in our hands yet, we'll have all that stuff worked out and what subscriptions are for and what we'll be giving. I know that there'll be a blog as well, a community section. So we can have discussions. People can comment and bring their own information and bring their own ideas and stuff like that, and they can interact with us directly. That's what basically we've been doing this whole time, is going through our own little bits of growth as we usually do, but also kind of making it to where we could finally interact one-on-one without using just platforms like Apple Podcasts and YouTube and all of that.
And that's the thing, like it's come to this point too, to have those subscriptions. Obviously, we understand, and we want people to have access to the information, so there is going to be a level of a free subscription as well as paid subscription, which obviously the paid subscription, there's a lot more content, a lot more interaction and stuff with us, and just a lot more that we'll be able to do with that as well. Obviously, we will still have current content. We'll still have content coming out on YouTube as well and stuff, but we also want to really try to drive it to our platform, and kind of, with all the way YouTube is and sensory and all that stuff, it's this is part of even our own sovereignty kind of method as well on top of it. And this is another thing, is this is all personally funding from us. This isn't us going out there getting donations and stuff like that. Like, this is self-funded. and we are doing this to build up more of what to see done, and to be able to have that type of community and have people be able to come and be more involved and expand their minds a little bit, expand consciousness a little bit, and yeah, to have that actual interaction. So obviously anything helps, whether it's donations or subscribing, either type of subscription, like we definitely recommend it. Like there is going to be a lot more that we do with that, you know. Also, so yeah, so we did say obviously the old podcast will be there. New podcast will obviously have a section for it. The different types of way it's going to be distributed under certain subscriptions, as well as bonus content will be available. You said the blog as well. That really helps us, sit in the tall grass with each other and exchange ideas.
I like that.
Kidding, we're not a
Yeah.
we're not a cult.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so there's that as well. So besides that, we and you have exchanged some thoughts and ideas on maybe eventually to come types of cool content that we maybe want to do. We just spoke about one yesterday. Care to go into? Right? Was it yesterday? I think it was, or
About
the other day.
now you'll have to now because we've talked about so you what was it?
The shows and movies.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So okay. Um I've been recently reading the Archetypal Universe by Ren Butler. And I also just binge watched Attack on Titan for the past like 6 days. And I have a Vegeta tattoo, as I think our listeners will know. I talk about that a lot. And I'm obsessed with character development and archetypes. And astrology is nothing but
Yeah.
archetypal, characteristics and definitions and stuff like that, where, you see synchronicities of archetypes being played out. And so as I'm watching the show and I'm reading forums and I see connections to mythology and stuff like that, what we want to do is while teaching and discussing archetypal knowledge and mythologies and
Mhm.
stories and allegories to bring that to actual modern cinema and
Mhm.
anime and shows and movies and stuff like that that people can relate to because they're experiencing them in the present. They're modern,
Mhm.
and we could bring out the archetypal nutrients of shows and anything that we are experiencing more in the media realm. So I do think we're going to figure out a way to whether they're podcasts themselves or maybe even separate talks that we would put under maybe a subscription because we may put a little more work and love into the content,
Mhm.
into the videos themselves. They could
Mhm.
be maybe more educational videos. We haven't fully kind of decided on that type of like what's going to be the final form of ironically the final form
Mhm.
of these videos and this content, but this is because so many times I've watched movies and I'll see like great videos on philosophical breakdowns of the movie and all of that, and then but there'll be another layer I go down where I'm like, wait a minute, that was some archetypal reference to Norse mythology or Egyptian mythology or biblical theological, and you start to see that the same stories get played out over and over again, and you learn so much more about the screenwriter, about the person who wrote the story in the movie, or whatever, and or that it could have seeped out naturally through because the same
Mhm.
stories do seep out naturally. Like we're all telling the same stories in different renditions all over the world and in different forms of media. So in this case, we want to make that kind of a steady and constant thing we do where we maybe we're on a show or on some specific movie and we'll let everyone know maybe that we're watching the movie or that we're going to check the show and
Mhm.
we're going to break it down and we're going to break down the archetypes
Yeah.
and what we saw, maybe some deep philosophical implications of the movie, or and get maybe even me and Gio might have different perspectives
Mhm.
um, on these specific
Yeah.
things. And then in our, once we have the website and this is like a usage we see for the website is when we have certain things like this put out, you guys get to give us what you think and maybe something we missed on where this could have came from and this source and this mythology or this allegory or anything like that. And we could start to kind of like almost break down and rip through the threads of stories and see what their origins are, what their deeper meanings are, and all of that. And we can start learning to watch and experience everything we do with a deeper perception.
It's a great way to make information when it comes to maybe some of the more podcast type talks and stuff, and in these different truth communities and ourselves. It's a great way to that we've noticed for ourselves personally how it makes it stick so much more, and you get more intentionally involved with understanding those archetypes and seeing those archetypes play out in all parts of life, through just maybe some of these characters and the things that happen in these shows and movies and stuff. And it's like it's a great way, to do it and to really break it down. And also on top of it, also kind of seeing how overall consciousness kind of plays out, um and how this may relate to you know why we have some of these occurrences in our world and stuff, so it helps go into a deep aspect about it. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I don't
I'm
know.
excited for that.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've watched a show and I've tried to like think of like the big three, like astrologically of a character. I'm like, oh, this character looks like they'd be a Capricorn sun with a Aries moon and maybe a Gemini rising or something, like where I'm starting to break down the psychological or astrological interpretation of a character or of an event. And my mind starts thinking in symbols and in myths and all that. And it's funny, I had this written down. I wanted to say this tonight at some point, but here's a great example of, you know, what we mean by it, or by my mindset about how people see things and the perception of things. Symbols themselves, and this is my own notes, symbols themselves are expressed in layers, and the interpretation is dictated by the level of consciousness by the interpreter.
Mm,
So, what I'm saying with that is, I may watch a show, or I may see a symbol, or I may see some sort of event that happens in the world. And my level of consciousness or my level of understanding or where my sources have come from, my origins of knowledge and wisdom and all of that, or what I've experienced in life, is going to be the filter I use to interpret specific things. Um, and there's so many people and so many different ways we could go about it. But I do think that there are specific things we could really siphon symbols through and say, well, no, that's like the nature's definition. That's nature, Mother Nature's way of saying that this is what it is. And to me, if there was to be the closest thing to objective truth, is seeing the symbolic formations of nature and what happens naturally, even psychologically through humans and emotionally through humans, through archetypes and through symbols and through shows and all of that. And that's how we can start gaining deeper truths about things. Because we all have to admit that nothing's more captivating than a good story,
mm,
and nothing's going to
yep.
get you to want to learn. How many times have any of us been obsessed with a show and they go get a tattoo of a character on their arm because the story is so relatable and there's so many things that you're learning about your own psyche through the character that you actually get obsessed with the character? I'm one of those people. You have all these people who go to Comic-Con, or they go to, any sort of one of those conferences or things like that, where they're so obsessed with whether it's science or anime or cartoons or video games or anything like that, where it looks childish, but no, there's something more to that there's some sort of
Mm,
archetypal psychological representation of people that they see themselves, of either what they are, what they were, or what they want to be in a character or in a show. And
mm,
there's something about the story that captivates us, and it makes us even the memory of those things. I mean, like, someone will go, who isn't religious, will go read the Bible, and like within, like, I don't know, they're forced to read it and they're not going to remember jack shit because they didn't care about it. But they'll go tell you about every little episode about some anime or about some kids show or some cartoon they like, or some movie series or some Netflix series they like, and they'll reiterate everything because there was something. I don't To me, there's something deeper to that whole concept, is that we're watching these things and we're almost tapping into the collective unconscious or our own unconscious, and ripping these threads out because of the relationship to our own psyche or to the collective psyche. So yeah, that's I guess more of a deeper reason why we'd want to do something like this as well. And of course, it'd be
yeah.
fun. It'd
Yeah,
be fun.
absolutely. Go into different movies and shows that people really like. Absolutely, that's fun. But it's like, yeah, it definitely a lot of times, being able to understand the archetype and the story in that sort of way through, say, some type of story or movie or show and stuff, allows you to take a deeper look and understand the character maybe at play, and that you can kind of make that reflection of yourself, and a lesson can be learned through it for your own personal life, or a certain attribute that you need to express or need to make come out more, or even something that you need to kind of work on that's maybe on the negative aspect. Like, it can shine a light on those things. So yeah, I think that'd be a great thing for us to do as well.
I got to add
Let's
something to
see.
that.
Yeah,
I
go
got to
ahead.
add something to that real quick. And another thing, because I'm a musician and I'm an audio engineer and I'm very sensitive to music, meaning, the mood of any song could actually affect my mood pretty quickly. And through all the shows I've watched recently, I've noticed ones that captivate me the most are the ones with great music. And I do think that going just to the basic understanding of music as well and what it does to the psyche, even that's archetypal. Meaning for me, I have a lot of inner passion and rage about how bad the world has been and all that stuff that, all the my psychological upbringings on things that I have maybe or repressed or unexpressed, and music brings that out. So even that is a whole other form. Like all forms of art and media and all these shows and stuff like that allow us to tap into the unconscious.
Mm,
And that would probably be the most important reason why doing some sort of fun task like this, some content like that is I think vital. I think it's going to
yeah.
be fun. I think it's something it's probably necessary at this point. Um because let's not forget to have fun while doing all of this as well.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. That's important what you said, because not only are we going to discuss consciousness and stuff like that, but you know, let's just think about the Trinity, mind, body, and soul. Like, we do part of it is having to be able to learn how to interact with the subconscious, whether it's deprogramming it or reprogramming it as well, especially with all the symbolism, which we're definitely going to go into symbolism as well. And yeah, of course, we're going to observe a lot of those conspiratorial conspiratorial type, symbolic use, symbology that's being used a certain way and where it's being used and stuff like that, but really kind of hone in on how it's actually working and what it's doing, and what you should even do about it. um so besides those things, what else did we say as far as content? Obviously, well, we definitely want to get into more of even these type presentation type things on maybe more honed in matters and stuff, and really kind of being able to break things down, and with a great visual aspect on top of it too. That's why anything that helps with the subscriptions on top of it, we're going to be funneling that money back into this podcast to just make it that much more greater, that much more legit. The proper equipment and programs, and the necessary tools to make this better, and to make it better ultimately for you guys, the viewers. And to give everybody, that this feeling of belonging, and being able to know that you could come somewhere and also have your voice heard and stuff like that's the other thing that we want to do too on top of it, is be able to have, obviously, for some more top tier subscription type people, to have them be able to, however often we do it, have some sort of interaction, sit down roundtable discussion. And it could be on many things, whatever, or a focused topic. Being able to allow people to express their thoughts and opinions on certain things, maybe if even something that we've discussed, somebody has an opinion, whether they agree or disagree, just to have more of that interactiveness, and to be able to engage more with one another. Because we want to hear what everybody's got to say. We can all learn from each other. So I think that's an important thing of what is to come eventually as well.
Yeah, and I had so some things I had written down from our previous discussions about all this is um having specific video essays. That was one of the things that I
Mhm.
really want to I'm taking classes on, video editing and making kind of educational type videos. So instead of just having the broad discussions on topics and just even guests. But let's say there's something that people are really interested in, is for us to do the research and find specific things and almost express them in a very entertaining yet informational type of form of content, and make not just educational videos, but really informative videos on things that maybe we're really honed in on. And then through this extra, content we make, we could have podcast episodes kind of around those things as well. And we could really hone in on something if we're all very interested in the continuity of it and all of that too. So between blogs, actual video essays and stuff like that, I'd even thought as a musician, maybe meditation music, stuff like that as well, binaural beats, isochronic tones, whatever. We're working on making this more than a podcast, but it starts with you guys getting to know us more and us getting to know you more, and to know that we're all on a similar path, and that the intentions of us are good, and us seeking your support to continue doing this, so then we could grow, and not only grow our own, the Intrinsic Minds itself, but to grow the community and get people connected more and more, and something that we're yearning to do. And especially at a time that we're arriving at in human history, where everything's pretty uncertain, it's unpredictable. And with that, we need our tribe. And it's all about the tribe before, anybody who tries to be the king, right? In the age of Aquarius, it's about the people, not the power. And so with that, we would like to play into that modality with all of this, and not only be informative and entertaining, but also be people that could bridge information and people together, and have us all coagulate into something expansive and useful to humanity and the rest of us individually in the end too, as well. Of course, it's all about the self as well, but it's about bringing that true individuated self to the tribe, still being yourself, but then having this open space to then share that individuated self and your path and your journey with other people, so then we could help each other grow as well. Because like I said in the beginning, if you've reached some sort of destination, I think you failed.
Yep. It's time to look at, that there is a next step and everything. So, another big thing that we will be, eventually adding, and over time too, to the website, will be trusted affiliate, whether they're types of products or services that we feel that we trust and really recommend and love and stuff too. To have those available as well, where, our listeners and our subscribers can get their own basically, I mean, everybody should know basically how affiliate programs work, but to get their, to know that they're getting a product that is trusted and backed, and to also, get it through our link and get, a discount and stuff. That's always great. Everybody loves discounts. So, that's definitely something that we want to continue to eventually add as well. And the other thing too, another big thing, astrology. We are going to delve more into, yes, I know we've done podcasts around certain astrological things and stuff like that, but having more consistent, even content on, the astrological transits, having astrology reports, and then eventually being able to have some, availabilities for readings as well and stuff too. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit to, being able to hone on that, and especially to really appeal to the astrological people that listen to us as well. It'd be great. And not only that, just in general, because one other thing that we've noticed is that no matter what, astrology helps bring any sort of topic or area discussion into a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Helps really bring it into a more
Cohesive.
yes, good, a cohesive, trained understanding of, whatever it is that we're kind of going into and stuff. It's a great way to back up however you're looking at it with that natural science of astrology. So we definitely want to do more of on the astrological side as well, and engage with that.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming for sure, and I think we
Mm,
can. We didn't want to jump the gun on saying we're astrologers, but it really has been a long journey, and we have done a lot of study. And
mm,
eventually, we'll. I know that people need to see too that we know what we're talking about, and that'll be the goal within our podcasts and within maybe also some extra content we do. Will be showing our astrological knowledge and showing what services and what things we could do for other people, um, and showed how far we've really come.
mm,
And we'll prove also that, I mean, God, astrology really has been the most cohesive and most um, I don't know what you yeah, like another word for it, I guess, would be effective way
mm,
of seeing the beauty of synchronicity. I guess like
mm,
astrology really is the language of synchronicity, and to us, that's why it's so important that it is a science of synchronistic and
mm.
archetypal um, knowledge, I guess, and wisdom that you get to see these things play out in the realm in real life and in everyday. You could see it, and that's the thing. You could see it in everyday circumstances, and with that
All
is
the
all the proof you need.
existence. Yep. It's all the existing energies and the currents that we may be facing at certain times, or and once again, even our own, it gets more personal as well on top of it. And that's the other thing. If you want proof too, as far as the astrology from us as well, I mean, it's, I don't know when we release this, it might, it might be out by then, but we did a Patreon discussion with Phantom Phil from Unexplained Incorporated, along with who we've had also on the Daily Transcendence podcast, was Amanda from I always mix up the words. Mindful magic method. Yeah. Um we all four of us did a discussion on reviewing the year 2022 with our own personal experiences, but also the astrological transits and experiences, and then even a look ahead into the next few months of this year, of where we've been. And that was a phenomenal talk. Um,
We'll put
when
the
I know what the
link.
link is, yeah, when I know what the link is, we'll put it in. We'll put in the description. That I definitely think everybody should check that out. It was a great discussion, especially to really kind of grasp the previous year, and even before that on top of it, and kind of just seeing what the energies have kind of sculpted out for us for this year and even years to come and stuff too. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think on that note, I think that's basically a probably a perfect welcome back episode.
yeah,
Starting a new phase, a new chapter. It's right on time for the spring equinox as well. Saturn just entered Pisces. Pluto about to enter Aquarius. We're about to enter a whole new world. If you thought that everything was crazy the past 3 years, we got another phase
mm,
of it about to come, like phase two of entering the
mhm,
new Earth is about to happen, astrologically speaking. And I think we could all agree that we're watching it happen in front of our eyes and all of that. I mean, even down to the way we're experiencing time. Time is different. A
mm,
lot of things are changing right in front of us, and if you're aware of it, you could see it. So, but I think on that note, I'm pretty comfortable with saying that's probably everything we wanted to say. We're glad to be
yeah,
back. We're glad to be part of this again. And we took this time to be constructive and make sure that we do something that's long lasting and valuable to not only us, but to you guys. And we're very, very excited. I'm excited to be.
exactly.
This has been my dream, other than music, is to be someone who helps change the minds of people. So I'm
Mm,
excited.
yeah, just how all the extreme energy has been coming in hot. That's why it was time for us to even double down on our delivery and the access, so we can all kind of gain this new awareness and be able to roll with the tides.
Yeah. All right. So
So yeah.
until next time, guys, everything that we said, we will
Mhm.
put links to in the description. We will keep you guys updated on the website. I'm sure that if the website does finish before anything's
Mhm.
posted, that we will have some sort of notification on social media,
Mhm.
whether it's here or Instagram, which, by the way, our Instagram has been changed as well. We'll put all the links to our
Mhm.
social medias down below. We have a Twitter, Instagram. I think we made a Rumble as well, right, Gio?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So
Okay.
we have
So
a
we'll have
TikTok account too, which we'll be trying to utilize that a lot more too. There's good little tidbits for all the TikTok people as well. But yeah, and definitely hit that like button, help us out, get, you know, the more the better. And also commenting, also maybe what you may be looking forward to come hear from us, maybe any questions that you have of what we may or may not be doing and stuff, because we'd love to answer it, and any ideas, because that's the thing. It's no limits, no limits here. We got the space now, the platform, and we're ready to roll with it. So yeah, hit up that like button in the comment section.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. And until next time.